I said that there were three mindsets to encourage creativity. One is a growth mindset, and we've already talked about that. The second is an intrinsically motivated mindset. Bit of a mouthful, but fairly easy to understand. We can just break down two key words here. One is intrinsic, that is interior, inner, inside of you. Extrinsic, exterior, outer, outside of you. In creativity studies, intrinsic motivation is, quote, the motivation to approach a task out of sheer interest in the activity itself and excitement about the challenges ahead. You can see how this ties into growth mindset, right? That you are excited about challenge. Extrinsic motivation, however, is when you do something for an external reward. So intrinsic motivation, an example of this would be when children build snow people because it's playful and it's fun and the activity of building the snow person is the reward. Extrinsic motivation is where students follow instructions closely so they get good grades. The grades are the motivating factor, not the lesson. An intrinsic motivation example would be a teacher designs a new course because it lets them satisfy their need to explore new ideas. I was not paid extra to design this course. I was barely even given time to design this course. I did much of this design in my free time. And that's because I was intrinsically motivated to do it. I was excited to be able to learn more about this stuff and teach it to you. Extrinsic motivation can sometimes, though, be a good thing. For example, if someone's reducing their carbon footprint at home because they know that the result is that the climate will be better treated for it. So they're doing it for the tangible reward of a healthier environment, and that is an example of extrinsic motivation, and one of the ones that I think is important to use as an example that is a positive example of an extrinsic motivation. So extrinsic motivation isn't always bad. It's neither bad nor good. It's simply a way of motivating people to do things. Now, the different and more important question we might ask is an extrinsic motivation helpful? Well, in the short term, an extrinsic motivator, such as a bonus at work or a bonus grade or a grade at all or a salary, money, whatever, it may have a positive impact on someone's productivity and their sense of accomplishment. But in the long term, as a long-term motivator, it's much, much less efficient and effective than intrinsic motivation. In other words, people will do things for extrinsic reward in short bursts, but they're unlikely to do it for long periods of time. Imagine, for example, if I said to you, complete this 150-word assignment this week and I'll give you an extra 10% on your major assignment. Now, if I said that to you, 150 words is small enough and the time frame is short enough and the bonus is big enough that you'd probably say, sure, I'll do that, no big deal. But if I said, hey, over the next 4 years, complete this 350-page assignment and I'll add an extra point to your GPA, then the reward, the time and the effort and the stress of producing a document like that size, is probably not going to motivate you to do it. You'd probably just say, well, no, I'm not going to do that. So extrinsic motivation isn't necessarily bad. It's just not always effective for long-term motivation. It can, however, be very negative if it's used in a controlling fashion, as Hennessy points out. In other words, instead of making people do things with reward, the motivation should be that we're trying to confirm that people are good at things and we're rewarding them for being good at it. So a controlling example would say, if you don't work through the weekend, I will deduct 5% from your paycheck. That's a very manipulative, controlling thing. A confirming approach would say, whoever completes this project satisfactorily and earliest will receive a 5% bonus. In both of these cases, there is an extrinsic reward, an extrinsic motivation. However, one is rewarding somebody who does their work quickly and well as a sign of their ability to work quickly and well, and it encourages kind of a healthy competition, whereas the other one is just do what I say or else, and it feels more threatening. So extrinsic motivations aren't bad, but an intrinsic motivation, it's rooted in your personal interest, and often that leads to you enjoying what you do. And this means the effect can last much longer with unexpected effects and outcomes. Suddenly, writing a 350-page document over 4 years becomes its own reward for you. This is why, of course, people write books, right? No one tells them to write a book. People say, hey, I want to spend the next 4 years writing a book because I'm interested in doing it. So I spent 5 years writing a 350-page dissertation. I spent another 5 years writing a book. I have spent many hours and weeks and months of my life writing papers and articles and conferences and courses. This course took me many years to put together. It took years of reading, and it didn't change my salary. It didn't change anything about my life, except that I was doing something that for me was interesting. Now, a workplace environment typically has a mix, and in fact, most environments typically have a mix of motivations. This means that an environment features both intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. It's what Hennessy calls motivational synergy. It's just a fancy way of saying it's the fusing of both kinds of motivation. So one person might be paid to do their job, but in doing their job, they're intrinsically motivated to add things to the work environment in various ways. So again, I'm paid to be your teacher, but I don't have to develop a new course like this. I chose to do that for my own interest. I'm paid to be a teacher. I'm paid to teach courses, but I'm intrinsically motivated to evolve my sense of teaching and my bases of knowledge. This class, I think, is an example also of motivational synergy because weeks 8 to 14 allow you to explore your own ideas however you wish. It's an entirely open end to the semester. Whereas an extrinsic motivation here is that your superior effort during those weeks and in earlier parts of the course, they will result in a higher grade. So your effort corresponds to a grade. At the same time, you are free to pursue that effort however you want. So there's a bit of a mix here. You get to pursue your own ideas, but you do have to pursue them in a way that is academically and educationally responsible. The main point here is that sometimes we need to choose what projects we do or what topics we cover in our work, or sometimes we need to think about what hobbies we want to practice or perfect. And think about this example. When you select an essay topic in class, do you select the one of most interest to you, or do you pick the one that you think the professor will find the most interesting? And which of these is the motivated choice that is extrinsic and the other one is intrinsic? Which is which? Well, obviously, the one that's of interest to you is the intrinsic motivation. If you're interested in it, you will do it and enjoy doing it. I always picked the topics I was most interested in doing because I wanted to enjoy what I did. The person who picks the topic that they think the professor will like tends not to do as well. I'm talking from experience. Those people are trying to please me and achieve my goals rather than theirs. And so the extrinsic motivation to appeal to me in some way by picking a topic they think I want them to pick leads them to produce weaker work because they're not motivated to do that work well. My main point here is that no one gets full control over their educational, creative, professional, personal lives. But when you do have control, try to think about what motivates you. What do you find interesting? Not just because it earns you money or grades, but because above all else, it fulfills you. It's interesting to you. You would love to learn about it. The answer to that question is always a way of understanding your intrinsic motivations. And so at the end of the semester, when you get to a point where you have to think about your final project, think about it in those terms. What are you motivated to learn strictly because you want to learn about it?
Dear Jared, thanks for that all-out appeal to connect with the cosmos. You express a dilemma that afflicts many in society. Should you do what you're best at? Do what others expect of you? Or do what you love most? Because I love what I do, I am self-driven and incentivized to make myself better at it every day, without limit. I bet most people who are encouraging you to stay in baseball carry high expectations that you will make tons of money. But that means your career would be driven by the search for wealth rather than the search for cosmic fulfillment. In my experience, when money is the sole carrot, people can lose sight of life's deeper sources of happiness.